The story you're about to hear is true. Only the names have been changed to protect the innocent and because I'm still a working police officer and I don't want to piss off my bosses. Armand Hassani's family owned a small used car dealership. Armand helped run the business. Armand was also a local drug dealer and had numerous friends that were on the rougher side. Armand meets a guy named Tim Sumner at a local Applebee's. Now, Tim was a college student who dabbled in selling small amounts of marijuana to his friends, and his friends were not so much on the rougher side. At some point, Tim decided it would be a good idea to get in the drug business with Armand. He told Armand that he can get 2 pounds of marijuana from a new supplier, but he didn't have all the funds. So on October 2nd, 2008, Tim and his friend Cameron Singer meet Armand at Armand's car dealership. Armand fronts them $1,800 to put towards the purchase of the marijuana. What they didn't expect was that Armand demanded Cameron Singer remain with Armand at the dealership while Tim Sumner went out to consummate the transaction. So Tim goes to meet this new source of supply. He's in a rougher area than he and his college buddies are used to. When he knocks on the door, the person behind the door opens the door, sticks a gun in Tim's face, robs him of his money. This guy literally robbed Tim on his own front porch. So Tim has no idea what to do. He's in a strange neighborhood, he's dealing in narcotics with people he's never met before, and he just got robbed. He is completely out of his element. So he does what any college kid who just got robbed of his dope money would do. He calls the cops. Needless to say, he didn't get the help in obtaining his drug money back that he was hoping for. So at approximately 8:30 p.m., Tim Sumner's freaking out. He calls Cameron Singer up and he says, "Hey man, I just got robbed. My source of supply just robbed me and I didn't get the marijuana." Well, obviously the news of this development was then related to Armand, who in turn was pissed about losing his money. So Armand gets a gun and then he enlisted the help of his friend Adam Rollins. And he told Cameron that Rollins was a killer and that he was bringing Rollins in as the muscle to fix the situation. Rollins then brings a couple of his guys over and they all threaten to do violence, to include sexual violence, if they don't get their money back. This poor kid is so out of his league. So Armand and Rollins pass the gun back and forth between each other. They're pointing the gun at his head, they're pointing it at his face, they're threatening to kill him, they're threatening to shoot him in the kneecap if they don't come up with his $1,800. So during the next few hours, Cameron's freaking out. He's making several phone calls. He's calling his buddies, he's calling his friends. Nobody's coming through. And he can't leave, right? So fearing that he's gonna be killed, he comes up with a plan to sign over his Volvo S60 in exchange for his freedom. Now remember, Armand owns a car dealership, so this kind of works out for Armand. So unfortunately, Cameron, who was a college student, lived about 75 miles away from where the Volvo actually was. So he calls a friend, Jeremy Brown, and asked him to drive the Volvo to the dealership so that he can sign it over to Armand. So during this phone call, he tells Jeremy Brown that he's being held hostage and that a gun's involved. So this entire situation is a complete shock to Jeremy, and obviously something that Jeremy's not accustomed to. So he calls the police and he tells them about the kidnapping. Now, he originally couldn't tell the cops where the dealership was because he's 75 miles away. But as he gets closer, Armand starts to give him directions and tells him where to go. So Jeremy is able to relay a possible location to the cops. So I'm working that evening. And at the time, I was an investigator to a violent crimes unit. And part of what we did is investigate shootings, gun crimes, and other violent crimes. So during the evening, one of the members of our team saw a suspicious incident call pop up on the call screen where a caller said a friend of his was being held hostage at a car dealership on Main Street. Now, the problem with that is there's several dealerships on Main Street, and we really don't know if this is a legitimate call, but we have to do our due diligence, so we start searching each dealership. As we're searching for the right dealership, Jeremy Brown shows up at the correct dealership with the Volvo, but he didn't have the title. So Armand is pissed. He forces Cameron and Jeremy Brown to get into the Volvo, and he told them they were going to go to Cameron's apartment to get the title. Armand gets in the car with him. Rollins took the gun and got into another vehicle so he could follow the group to the apartment. So as this is going on, I'm with another cop and we roll up on the correct dealership. Now, obviously, we have to tactically park, so we black out our unmarked vehicle, and we're in plain clothes, so we sneak up on the dealership. Now, we still don't know if this is the correct dealership at this point, but we see a group of guys. One group is getting into the Volvo, and another group is getting into an SUV. Now, because I know a Volvo is in play, we realize that this is probably going to be the correct dealership. So I call the rest of our team and I request backup. Now, the plan was to maintain a visual on the group until backup arrives. Ideally, we would have set up a perimeter around the dealership and we would have made entry with more units. Unfortunately, we saw them get into both cars and then we saw the reverse lights turn on. So at this point, we don't know who's who. We don't know who's armed. We don't even know that this is drug related, which really wouldn't have mattered because we're still going to help. But all we know are these guys are leaving and we might miss our chance at saving these kids. So ideally, the safer thing to have done was to wait for additional units, but we didn't have time. So I look at my partner Louie and I said, bro, if we wait for backup, these kids are gonna be gone. We might lose them. Louis looks at me and he's got this deep voice. He goes, what do you want to do, brother? And I said, fuck it, man, let's do it. I said, you take the car, I got the SUV. So Louis has a shotgun and he racks it. He's got a shotgun. Who carries a shotgun? Badass Louis carries a shotgun. Coolest shit I ever did. So I get on the radio and I tell the units, hey man, we're going in. Louis takes the car, I take the SUV, and I hold Rollins and another accomplice at gunpoint until units arrive. Everyone gets handcuffed. They have to. We don't know who's who, right? So as soon as everyone was secure, I walked over to the Volvo and immediately I could tell who the victims were. They were the two frat boys that were in tears thanking us over and over again. So a couple of years later, their case went to trial. Rollins was sentenced to 13 years and Armand was sentenced to life. Interestingly, due to a trial error in 2012, Armand was granted a new trial. He posts bond at $150,000, and while awaiting trial, he goes to Iran. That was 2012. Something tells me he's not coming back.